All right, friends on YouTube, I'm here making another video now. Originally, I had in mind making a video about what we would call racist-free. I wouldn't say racist-free, but reduced racism zones, okay? Places where you go where people's personal identity politics really don't hold sway, okay? And I do intend to make a video like that. Places where you find camaraderie and everybody getting along despite their varying backgrounds. And I will make a video about that. But I had to kind of revisit the subject of this whole racial tension because just here in the last few days, I encountered a situation with the Viking company, kind of themed company, Grimfrost. Okay? Now, I've kind of discovered that in many ways they are representative of more or less cucked white people, okay? And I don't think they're the poster child of it. I had discovered that they did not hire a young influencer, a woman by the name of Alvi Gunilla. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She's a Swedish content creator. I had no idea who she was. She just sort of popped up a little bit here and there on YouTube. She's only got like, I think 5 or 6 videos on YouTube. Very small YouTube presence. And she had made a video about losing a contract because she would not compromise some of her values intellectually, personally, and I guess spiritually. So I looked at her content and I thought, okay, she seems reasonable. I found her on Instagram. She has a ton of videos and a huge following on Instagram. But needless to say, to just sort of paraphrase her, she was offered a job by Grimfrost, and she did not mention Grimfrost by name, by the way. That was kind of deduced by others. They claim that she was pseudoscientific, not accurate historically when it comes to Scandinavian history, archaeology, things like that. She discusses runic lore and what have you, right? So the way she put it is they were fairly condescending in how they went about this. And I went to a video on Grimfrost and I asked the question, why? What was going on? I just kind of wanted to hear their story, their side of the story. And at first, they more or less ignored my request for information. And mind you, before I get on the subject, I've always liked the product line on Grimfrost. I like some of their videos. I found them informative. Excuse me, I'm suffering here in eastern Oklahoma. Those of us who are native Europeans are not meant to be here, okay? This is terrible for my lungs and what have you. So anyhow, they were a little dismissive, but they gave like a short answer and a long answer to my question. And they went right into how she was affiliated with a political party that I guess is racist. I think they're the alternative for Sweden. They tried to affiliate her with that. They tried to say she was pseudoscientific and that they value only the knowledge of experts. They only value the knowledge of experts in their company. That her values contrasted with the company values, right? And they more or less compared her viewpoints to flat earthers and things like that. So it seemed like a very strong ad hominem. They were very almost condescending the way they even spoke to me or responded to me. So of course this dialogue went on back and forth for a little bit over the last couple of days, and I kept pressing for specifics as to what exactly it was that got her I guess rejected as a candidate for employment with them. Nobody really gave anything solid. Other people come out and troll and said, well, she's affiliated with these terrible people. And I'm like, okay, well, what do those terrible people say? What do they do? So, mind you, I did not know about the political situation in Sweden. on Instagram, listened to what she had to advent and what she talked about. She also denied affiliation with this political party in Sweden. So where they're coming up with this, I don't know. As I looked at her videos, many of them seem to be lock in step with several academics, and in fact she claims in her one response video that she does not disagree with many academic standards, but that it is healthy to question even these so-called experts in these fields. Now, I mentioned that as well. I'm a former educator. Well, I'm still an educator, just online in a different sort of way. And of course, you can dispel conspiracy theories or things that are clearly not logical. There are established objective excuse me again, objective criteria for what the historical record says and things like that. But they speak in a way from that ivory tower, that intellectual ivory tower of academia, of we are right and there's no room for debate, and the layman has no say in this, and I completely disagree with that. I have friends in different fields that have told me that archaeology itself, for example, is not always concrete. Yes, you have physical evidence, but how it was used is up for interpretation. You don't have to be formally educated in those fields to understand the gist of the conversation. A layman can grasp these things. Now, of course, we know that the greater your education, the more access to information, and how you approach the information is also important. That is hence why we often go to a university, right, to try to learn these methods, but that's a subject for a different day. So, needless to say, I didn't find anything that she said that violated this overall notion of affiliation with political parties. She didn't promote a political party. I've not seen it anywhere on her Instagram. Oftentimes I see her saying things about history or archaeology that seem to match what I've seen by other experts in those very fields, the experts they claim to support. So it comes down to, she seems to promote this idea of this being of a European tradition and that we are all European peoples, right? She made a video just that came out today about addressing Americans as being sort of like we have that ancestry, we are connected, we are a part of a larger family. So I suspect that Grimfrost ultimately is selling out. They're selling out to this global concept of whites must reject the notion that they have any culture unique to themselves, that they can be a people all to themselves. They seem to be rejecting this. It's a trendy thing, has been for a while. You'll frequently hear people say, oh, white people have no culture, they don't have this, which is complete nonsense. Clearly, some of the best cultures in the world are European, or inspired by Europeans. And you can say I'm biased. I would say just look at the evidence, look at how it works. Perfect culture? No. There's no perfect culture. But we oftentimes find, as Europeans, we're always labeled and libeled with accusations and charges as though we're the originators of all these sins in the world that have really been in existence in every culture, every place, and different times. So, anyway, I looked a little bit up at this political party in Sweden. I don't know all their tenets, so I can't say what they're all about. But they seem to be rejecting this influx of hordes of migrants from countries who are not interested in assimilating in Sweden. You know, and look, you could do the research for yourself. Try to find unbiased research. It's a no-brainer that Sweden used to be one of the safest places in the world. When I was a young kid, everybody talked about Sweden as being one of the safest places ever. Swedes often even mocked Americans for our dangerous cities and things like that. And somehow recently they became the rape capital of Europe, and they have mass shootings and explosives. People use grenades. I'm like, I just, I don't know. I shouldn't be laughing, but I just imagine the Muppets, the Swedish Chef, ducking and dropping to the floor to avoid gunfire or grenades. So I got a fucked up sense of humor. But yeah, so clearly this unchecked migration, which, by the way, is a global phenomenon. Take a look. It's only Western countries that are doing this, being flooded by third world migrants who do not want to assimilate. And of course, I don't want to speak for all of them. I'm sure there are some who are wanting to assimilate, who do mean well, who want to learn the language. It's funny because there is a radical left globalist agenda behind this. Take a look at America, for example. We just had 59 South Africaners from, come in, families waving the American flag, wanting to assimilate, facing real death threats, real challenges in South Africa, and the meltdown by the radical left in this country is just over the top. Meanwhile, that same radical left here just a couple years ago is like 10 million, 20 million, let them all in, we don't care, let them vote. It's total fucking bullshit. So the reality is Grimfrost is in lock and step with this global notion of they're so afraid. I think they're afraid of their company, especially with association with Viking things, this whole Viking movement. I think they fear being labeled as racist, okay? And we know what a bullshit word that is now. They're just terrified of being represented or called a racist, and their bottom dollar would be affected. So ultimately, they sold out. They sold out. It is a business. I understand they don't want modern politics creeping into their business. They don't want none of those things. But when you deny somebody work because you fear the slim possibility of their affiliation with groups that might say, hey, maybe we should look after our people, and our people are, Europeans. And I'm talking about all native Europeans ultimately. That we as a people cannot protect our interest as an extended family, that we cannot recognize that those aspects of the past do in fact belong to us. They are our culture. They are us. They are part of us. They are part of our ancestors. And of course we can historically make sure that the record is accurate. And that's something else. Grimfrost talked about promoting the accuracy. Our ancestors would be offended if we did not represent them accurately, that kind of shit, right? Well, is it accurate to say that, Middle Eastern Muslims were influential on the Vikings tremendously, where they defined their culture? I'm not saying encountered them and traded with them. I'm talking about, I've seen claims of black Vikings and all this other nonsense. It's all bullshit. Come on, we know it's bullshit. So they sold out. They're, at this point in time, I see them as historical LARPers, very well dressed. I do have some of their products, some of their gear. I love their boxing gloves. I love some of their stuff. I kind of think their berserker shirts are kind of tacky. The Viking Special Forces. I think that's kind of cheesy. But to each their own. So I think they took their pieces of silver. I think they are being cautious and careful. It's a business model. I don't know them personally. I suspect they're very good people. Love some of their material. But I must stand by people who I think are authentic. And I believe Alvi Gunilla is authentic. And I've not seen any reason to think otherwise. Call it a gut feeling, an instinct I have about this. I think she's trying to look after the interests of our ancestors and our people. So it's really just a choice between corporate bending the knee versus people who have a sincere and serious interest in promoting the truth of who we are and where we come from. So that being said, I'll probably go to like Norse imports for a lot of my stuff from now on, and avoid Grimfrost. It's unfortunate. I like a lot of their stuff. And anyway, I didn't mean to make this a another rant about identity politics and race. It seems to be a hot button topic, but it's something that needs to be discussed. So I guess you could call it Black Fatigue Part 2, the sequel. Right? So anyway. And it really isn't about black fatigue. This is white cuck fatigue. Yes. If I had to call it anything, I would say this one should be white cuck fatigue. Because it's beyond just Grimfrost. There's a lot of them doing it. So, anyway, see you next time, guys. Hope this was helpful to somebody. Bye.